Welcome to What the Ish. I'm your host, Patricia San Pedro. Today, Starr Sariego, a talented and socially conscious photographer, joins our podcast. After her divorce, everything she had identified as disappeared. She wasn't a wife anymore, or a stay-at-home mom to kids, so she had to start thinking, what is next? Lots of issues popped up, but fortunately, Starr embraces change. Find out how she ran away towards it all and found happiness and peace she didn't even know she was missing. Hello, Starr.
Hi, Pat. Thank you for the beautiful intro. That's so kind and sweet of you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so happy that you're here today. Why don't you tell us where you are?
So I am on the deck of my beautiful new home here in Asheville, North Carolina.
I love that. It looks like heaven.
Well, it is heaven, and I must say it's cooler than it is in Miami.
And that sounds more like heaven to me.
Yes. I woke up this morning to 64 degrees. Now it gets bloody hot during the day, but it's lovely in the mornings.
Yeah, well, it starts at 90 here and goes to 90 at night.
Plus 90.
And there's a storm brewing out in the Atlantic. But we're not going to look at that. We're not going to think about that.
Stay positive.
Yes. So when I was creating this little podcast, I was really inspired by you in a lot of ways, because the ish to me is the kind of, sort of, like the definition is kind of, sort of. So I'm happy ish, or I'm fulfilled ish, or I'm having a great life ish. And you popped into my life and into my mind because I think you did like this to your ish.
I did. I guess I had a pretty stable, normal Miami life. I was married for 25 years, as you know. I got divorced in 2013, and my life really changed a lot. And I was exactly what you're talking about. I was happy-ish with my life. It was a lot of adjusting, readjusting to a whole sort of new kind of life. And I'm sure a lot of women in our age category can identify with what I'm talking about. But, kind of the circles you had established and had been a part of my life, or that we all established, kind of tended to disappear or become less meaningful, or, it was a lot of shifting sands.
Because of the divorce.
Because of the divorce and your social groups. And my kids are now 26 and 28, but they were a little bit younger, but definitely in their older teen years. And so really kind of everything that I had identified as disappeared. I wasn't a wife anymore, and I wasn't a mother to stay-at-home kids. So it was really a time to start thinking about what's next.
And what was next?
Well, thank God I'm the kind of sort of person that embraces change.
Very important.
Yeah, because a lot of people are not comfortable with change. But I had been in photography before the divorce. I had a location company with a friend of mine, and I just started really focusing on photography as a means for making a difference. And I think I've always volunteered my whole life, starting in, high school, some format or another. And I was asked to put together a photography project featuring women with disabilities. It was called the Bold Beauty Project. And so I'd never done anything like this before. That was in 2016. And it so moved me and so shook up my life. And I really saw the power of this exhibit. So it was like women's portraits done by a bunch of photographers, including myself. I put the whole project together. And we had their stories next to each image. And people would walk through the gallery weeping.
Really?
Oh, something big is happening here.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really the big thing that kind of saved me, was having a new focus, producing something that was still within the genre of helping others, using my newfound passion as a photographer, because I started that in my early 50s. I'm now 63, so it's like not something I've done for a long time.
That's crazy because you're so good.
I thank you, honey. I think I'm an adequate camera, working the gizmo, the gadget called the camera.
Mhm.
I think like really what my skill is connecting with the subjects. And so I think out of that kind of personal connection, you really can make a better portrait because people feel engaged and connected. So, yeah.
I love that. It's just a beautiful message really to people that it doesn't matter the age. You're never too old to start something new. And for you, photography was something new that you've now made it such a part of your life and such an important part of your life and impacting people with it.
It literally became my thing in Miami post-divorce. I've always been really attracted to things and people that are different from me. I don't hang with a pack of people that are similar to me. So I developed this huge photographer friend group through the Leica camera store in Coral Gables. It really became my little hub. And it's been very fulfilling, very, very, very my heart involved,
I think that's wonderful. So then you were very involved in that. And I know you did another exhibit here at the museum, which I thought was beautiful and also extremely impactful.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate to give a shout out to the Coral Gables Museum and the curator there, Uni, who is a beautiful soul. She was a curator at the Bakehouse when I put the first exhibit up. So she really had a ton of faith in me to just make an exhibit. So we did something called the Compassion Project, and it was the story, the narratives, the stories of 25 formerly incarcerated women and their portraits. And again, amazing. This time we had an art film included, and I'd gone into a recording studio and made recordings of the women, developed an app to go with it. And it really was kind of a 2-year process of, I've always told my kids, no is never the right answer. Like if you get a no, you go, okay, how can we figure it out? How can we go around it? How can we, let's figure this out,
Yes.
And so I would have these ideas for the exhibit and I didn't know what I was doing, but it was like, I'm going to figure it out, So that for me is very exciting. Yeah, it was quite successful. It was up for 4 months and again, very moving. Yeah.
Would you ever have thought 20 years ago that you would have your photography in a museum?
No. In fact, I think of a lot of people who are younger than we are. I think of my kids, 26 and 28, and, I see young people really struggling with, especially in this time where things are so difficult and so uncertain. And I think it's just really the work of the young person to say, what is my life going to be? And, they think that we all think like in our 20s and 30s, we're going to pick something and that'll be it. And I swear, I feel like a Renaissance person. I'm just like maybe 4 different lives in my lifespan, and each one completely unknowable and unimaginable to my own. Even sitting on this deck in this town in North Carolina was unthinkable 12 months ago. Unthinkable. Last summer, last June, I hadn't even thought I would move. So yeah, I think it's exciting if you can hold the possibility for not knowing and find a way to be okay. I guess it's like, right, the mindfulness thing, like being in our present moment in our lives, and like just anything can happen.
And not being fearful.
Well, I will say fear pops its head up a lot. I think it's to be human is to be concerned or fearful or to worry and think.
But not to let it rule you.
Exactly. To say it's here, but I'm committed to, again, for me, it's to change. For someone else, it might be just to carry on in their lives as they know it,
Right.
in difficult circumstances, this is definitely a privilege to be so flexible in my life. There are people who are trapped in situations and conditions that they can't do anything about, either for finances or health or family, and it's like, how do we as women, and I really do, I focus a lot on women because I do think as women, we've had so many specific limitations, right? So,
imposed by others and self-imposed.
Exactly. It's really cultural. I think a
Yes.
lot of it is how we're raised culturally, what's expected. And I am outside that box.
Mm-hmm. You're like me, honey. We don't have a box.
Well, we have the box in our little head with our limitations, but we live our lives differently from
Yes.
what people think. Come on, all my friends in Miami, there are a few like you and a few other special friends who kind of support my different way of life. And yeah, it's the ish, babe.
It's the ish. So getting back to the ish, because to me, like, I didn't know you when you were married, and then you got divorced, and then you exploded in a good way, right? But what came to my mind was, like, you went to North Carolina and this is real.
We're in real life, folks. Sorry about that.
That's okay. This is real. We're not editing anything out. This is like, it's the real deal. So I want you to share how this happened, because this really, to me, was like one of the biggest ish blasters, where you went to North Carolina and then came back. Just tell that story, because it's just so cool.
All right. So
it inspires me.
We can all remember last March, when the pandemic struck, and I had been alone in my apartment all those months. And the end of June, I was like, I'm going to rent a friend's house, your house, in North Carolina. Drove up to Highlands, had rented a car for 2 weeks, only had the house for a week. So I had 2 weeks to muck around, and I was going to head up to Atlanta to see my brother. And I have a friend from high school, Nita, God bless her. She's become a dear, close friend. I was like, I'm going to spend the night in Asheville, just go see Nita. And in that 24-hour period, I felt, which is what all the locals call this kind of ding dong pull of the mountains. And I was guilty as charged. I just really felt for the first time this sense of physical belonging. And I was like, wow, that's such an odd feeling. I felt pulled to be here, like in my core. So I had my 24 hours, left the B&B, got in the car, driving to Atlanta. And on my way to Atlanta, I'm thinking, how can I end up having my summers in Asheville? Maybe I can run a B&B, or I can find a part-time job and just be there for the summers. By the time I got to Atlanta, I'm calling, my financial advisor. I'm calling my realtor. I'm like, can I move? Is this possible? And so that kind of started a ball rolling. I got home, listed my place, and it sold in 2 weeks. And here I am. So, yeah. And who knew? I will say fear. We talked about fear earlier. Mm-hmm. Fear really held me back. I've been divorced since 2013, and it was like, everybody's like, move to New York. You have a best friend that lives there. Move here, move there. I was like, no, I could never.
I could never.
Yes. How could I start over? But I'm telling you, it's the gift of COVID for me. The pandemic gift is it kind of pulled the veil away from this, whatever was left of the life that I was living, that I felt was expected of me, whatever remnants of that life.
Right.
Where COVID pulled the sheet away,
I think it did that for a lot of people, but for you, it was kind of, drastic. So it was almost like you were fulfilled-ish and happy-ish, right?
It's exactly true. And I feel like at the heart of it, like what was my social life in Miami and my connection to nature, my connection to nature was really going to Fairchild. Not a beach person. I don't own a boat. So really it was Fairchild. And
Which is a garden. It's like a botanical garden.
beautiful. It's a massive botanical garden. It's really
Mhm.
my happy place in Miami,
Mhm.
but nothing else. And
Right.
so here I was like, I mean, you can see I live in the woods, and
Mhm.
um, it just, I guess I was not recognizing there were parts of myself that were unfulfilled. And coming here, you know, we all think as single women, I'm going to meet somebody, but I realized I'm the cake. My life is the cake. And if I meet somebody, that's going to be the icing.
Right.
We have the whole cake here. And being in nature was really the last piece that I didn't even know was missing until I got here. And, you know, it feels like church to me being here, you know, out in nature.
Isn't that amazing? Like you didn't know that there was a part of you that was missing until you found it. I think that's magical words.
Aw.
Really?
It's also about, I think, being open, you know. I think the other thing that I notice is that a lot of people reach a certain age in life. I have an old friend in Miami that told me that her and her husband don't leave a certain like radius of blocks anymore for like even restaurants. And I was like, oh, the horror.
I know. I know. We would both be like, no.
No. And I think it's so important just to be open to possibility, because something may show up on our radar that that's unexpected, that you can't even imagine, you know. Again, back to that thing where whatever it is we're trying to figure out, if we just kind of release, let go, and flow, like
Mhm.
show up for us.
So now you're happier, more fulfilled.
I am. I feel I feel more peaceful within myself. And is that place? I mean, I always thought, is place that important? But I have been reading a lot about a sense of place being an important thing, you know? Yeah.
So what would you tell someone? Because I always love to end this sort of with like a little nugget, right? What would you tell someone that I guess doesn't have the ability to just pick up and move? I mean, there's some people that do. I would say there's probably a lot of people that do have that ability, but don't realize they do. But I think there's also people who really can't for whatever reason, be it financial or commitments where they live. How do you think, and I don't know, I mean, how do you think they can get that to that place of fulfillment and peace without leaving where they are? Any thoughts on that?
I do. I have a few thoughts. I think a lot of it is maybe an internal dialogue about looking in and saying to yourself, are there things that I've always wanted to do that I haven't tried? Um, uh, Classes, online classes, picking up an instrument, trying a new dance. You know, another big thing for me is smiling at people and being open to people you meet in everyday life. I think um, having new experiences with people can be its own little small journey, you know, making new friendships, especially if it's outside of what you know. And, you know, to like circle back to photography projects and being my idea of creating opportunities for people to hear stories and see images of people they've never had an experience with before. For me, it was women with disabilities. You know, these women are sexual and physical and married and working and formerly incarcerated people. Like meeting these women, I was like, there's my auntie, my cousin, my sister, my mother. You know, they're very relatable once you get to know them.
Right.
And so the opening ourselves up, you know, to new people, new ways of thinking, new experiences, new conversations, those can be their own little, there's some cardinals right off to my left. New ways of kind of enriching your life, you know, just opening up to the unknown, things you've been afraid to try or whatever.
I love that. I just want you to know that as you've been speaking, my totem animal, which is a hummingbird, has been flying behind you.
That's hysterical.
I so love it. So cool. Those listening to us can't see that, but the ones on YouTube can. It was just so adorable. Yeah. That was
my laptop is propped up on the bird feeder that I know normally have on the edge of the deck.
So they're wanting to come in. Tell us real briefly about the project we're working on now.
Okay, the recent project, and again, talk about serendipity and magic. My name was given to a professor at University of North Carolina, Asheville, and she is an English professor doing a project on oral histories of queer Western North Carolina. So I've started a portrait project, and I think I'm going to call it Our Voices, Ourselves.
Like that
Tagline she's using for the LGBTQIA oral history project.
Oh, interesting.
An archive for the university and also for Western North Carolina Pride. And again, talk about blowing my mind. I have been photographing a variety of people, some incredibly memorable, just really. I had a meeting with an 80-something-year-old trans woman named Yvonne Riley Cook, who is the person who came up with the term transgender and was in the early 80s doing amazing advocacy work for trans rights and trans health and trans mental health. And yeah, it's really, again, enriching my world by having conversations I would have never had before in my life. So
with people that are so different than you, right?
Different, but and honestly, we're all so much the same
at the core.
Yeah, if we can make this the takeaway for the ish conversation, is that at the core, we are all truly, truly, truly connected. And this time of such dissonance and such noise, and it's heartbreaking to me. I'm really trying to, if I can apply my open-mindedness to trans people and the queer community here, and formerly incarcerated people and women with disabilities, I want to be able to include people that don't believe the same things I do politically. Right. And they realize the challenge. Get vaccinated, everybody.
Let's get that message in there. Starr, you've been fabulous. That's, as I knew you, I just love talking to you. You're so wise and have so many insights. I love
that. Love you very much. Thanks for doing this. I think it should be really fun.
This is awesome. Tell us your website.
So it's Starr Sariego Photography, and I'm also at Starr Sariego Photography on Instagram. And the last project I did, the Compassion Project _Miami, you can find on a website and on Instagram.
Awesome. And that's Starr with 2 R's. Thank you, my friend. You take good care.
Pat.
I'll come visit Asheville again soon.